Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about sunscreen, one of my favorite topics. I'm gonna share some of my favorite sunscreens right now. So this is an updated list. I have shared lots of sunscreen videos in the past because some of my favorite sunscreens have essentially been taken off of the market over the past couple of months, and hopefully they'll come back and be just as good, if not better than ever. But in the meantime, it's really caused me to have to broaden my search for sunscreens, try out a lot of new stuff, and in talking to a lot of my viewers and my followers and stuff, I've also started to really take price point into account. And one of the biggest complaints that I tend to hear is that sunscreen is used so often, it should be much more affordable, and I realized that a lot of the sunscreens I was sharing were not always affordable. So I do have some affordable sunscreens in here. I have one that's expensive, but it's almost like a special call out because it's just an interesting sunscreen. But I do want to let you guys know I'm being much more mindful of affordable sunscreens and trying out sunscreens that are just much more accessible in general. So number one is this one from Bondi Sands. This is their Daily Moisturizing Face SPF 50. This is an amazing sunscreen. It doubles as a moisturizer. So if you're one of those people that likes to just put on your sunscreen as your moisturizer and be good to go, this is the one I would suggest to you. Like, you don't have to put on a separate moisturizer. Even for me with my dry skin, this moisturizes my face plenty. So this just makes your morning routine super straightforward. Sometimes I just splash water on my face, I put on a vitamin C, and then I top it with this, and I am good to go for the day. So like, this is just an amazing all-around sunscreen. It is fragrance-free. It has avobenzone, homosalate, octisalate, and octocrylene in here. They're all considered reef safe, though I don't take a lot of stock in that. You know, I just don't know if they have really conclusive evidence of these chemical organic filters actually harming the environment or the reefs. It's also broad spectrum because it has all of those filters in it. And the best part about it is that it is $10. I actually just found it online for $7 on sale at like Walgreens, I wanna say, or like CVS. But on a regular basis, this is only $10. This is probably, I'm gonna say this is like the best sunscreen that I have found recently. Like, this is the one I'm gonna probably ride the hardest for. Next up is this one from Garnier. This is the Garnier Green Labs Replumping Serum Cream Hyalu-Melon, with hyaluronic acid and watermelon, essentially. You know, I first saw Tiara Willis talking about this. She is an esthetician who, you know, is really popular on Twitter. She's popular on Instagram also. I know Tiara loves sunscreen. She's the esthetician that started telling people to do like the 2-finger rule for your application and stuff. And I know she just loves and appreciates her sunscreens. Plus, she has a deeper skin tone than me. She is black, so she always is like testing out sunscreens that I cannot test out and recommend. It also tells me that this is black and brown skin friendly, which is also very important. I love that sunscreen is becoming a conversation for all skin tones because everyone should be wearing their sunscreen. So I know that she really likes this one as well. So after I saw her post about it, it piqued my interest, and then I started to see other people start to post about it, and then finally the internet sold me on it. So I went ahead and I bought this one, and I actually bought their pineapple version too, but I just happen to like this one more. It's just really, really straightforward. You know, it says that it's a serum cream. It feels like a light lotion essentially. And just like the Bondi Sands one, you can use this as your moisturizer and as your sunscreen all in one, so you don't have to use a separate moisturizer. I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with this sunscreen, but I do really like it. It is $17, so in comparison to the Bondi Sands, I wouldn't choose this one. I would actually choose the Bondi Sands because that one is $10, this one is $17. They pretty much have the same filters in them. And then, you know, the Bondi Sands is also an SPF 50, this is SPF 30. Again, that's all you need, especially if you're gonna be sitting around. So this would be more of like my indoor, sitting at the office all day kind of sunscreen. It does have a fragrance to it also, which I know is a deal breaker for some people, so that's something to just take note of. But this feels really nice. It does give you a nice, not necessarily a glow to your skin, but it does feel moisturizing enough. Like I said, this is also moisturizing, but in comparison to the Bondi Sands, which gives you like a really hydrating and moisturizing glow, this one feels like it's a little bit more matte when it dries down. So for my dry skin, I still felt like I needed a separate moisturizer for this one. So next up is this one from Cetaphil. This is their Sheer Mineral Face Liquid Sunscreen. This one is broad spectrum SPF 50. I really like having a mineral sunscreen option. I know that a lot of people hate the way mineral sunscreen looks on their skin because mineral sunscreen, just by nature of it, tends to leave a white cast. It's a white powder essentially that gets turned into a sunscreen. So it's really hard to find one that is beautiful. You know, also for people who are pregnant or, you know, have sensitive skin and stuff, I know that, you know, mineral sunscreens are more of the preferred. For me, the reasons why I like mineral sunscreens are, one, I have melasma, which in some ways you can consider to be like a form of like sensitive skin. So if I'm getting a treatment done or I use some really strong exfoliators and stuff, I tend to use a mineral sunscreen like this one. I also keep this around in my bag because I have kids and I tend to only put mineral sunscreens on my kids because I consider children's skin, especially if they are, you know, toddlers or just a little bit older than that, I consider them to have truly sensitive skin because it's such fresh new skin. You want to really take care of it and you don't want them to have any kind of rashes or anything like that. So I find that this is a really great one because it's also made for people with sensitive skin. It also has ingredients like allantoin in it that really just help to maintain your skin barrier. So this one's just really nice. The other thing that I really like about this one from Cetaphil is that it is water resistant, which actually the Bondi Sands one I forgot to mention is also water resistant. And that's something that I keep in mind if I'm going to be outside especially. But this one is water resistant. So again, great to have in my bag and also to like not just put on myself, but to put onto my kids. So I always have a mineral sunscreen with me in my bag. The reason why I like this one specifically from Cetaphil is because it truly is like a liquid texture to it. So it's easy for me to use. It's easy for me to spread on my kids really quickly when they're fighting me when I'm putting sunscreen on them. And it just feels really nice. It leaves a little bit of a white cast, but it's so subtle on my skin tone. I have not tried this on any darker skin tones than me, but on my skin tone, on my kids, it looks perfectly fine. And I also find that it's really nice under makeup because it has a little bit of a mattifying effect. And it's also fairly affordable. It's $15 for 1.7 fluid ounces. I know that's not a ton of sunscreen, but I feel like that liquid texture really gives you an even coverage of it, so you're not wasting any of it. Another one that I'm really enjoying is this one from Neogen. This is their Daylight Protection Airy Sunscreen. I wanted to point this one out because again, this has more of a matte finish to it. And again, I want to make sure I'm covering everybody who wants more of a matte finish. I would say that this one is a little bit more matte, so it has a moisturizing feel to it when you apply it to your skin, but it does dry down to more of a matte finish. You know, one of the things I want to point out with matte sunscreens is that they can pill. They can tend to pill on people. So it's something to keep in mind whenever you are using a sunscreen that is mattifying is, you know, you want to make sure you're not using too many super hydrating serums or moisturizers underneath because that combination is what really causes you to pill. So just be mindful of that. If you put either of these mattifying sunscreens on and they pill on you, make sure that you try them on their own, meaning that, you know, wash your face and then just put your sunscreen on to see how it truly finishes on your skin, and then start to figure out what it is that it's reacting to poorly, because that pilling really is just because of the mattifying properties that this has, which you're looking for. So you just want to make sure that you're matching it up to the right skincare products. And also you want to make sure that your skincare products that you're applying underneath are actually drying down enough too. But about this sunscreen. So this is also all chemical filters, organic filters. These ones are homosalate, octocrylene, and avobenzone. The thing that I really like about Neogen is that they use chemical filters that are FDA approved here in the United States. This is a brand new one. I know that they know what's been going on with a few of the Korean sunscreens. I don't think that we should call this a Korean sunscreen problem. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I'll leave links in my description box to videos that are all about like what's been going on with Korean sunscreens. But to just like briefly summarize it, a few of the really popular Korean sunscreens came back with different SPF numbers than they actually were advertising them as. And so I think it really disappointed a lot of people, myself included, because some of my favorite sunscreens were included in those lists. So we can't use them right now until they get that all sorted out and fixed. But this is a industry-wide situation. Like this happens all the time, even with American sunscreens. So I don't want to blame Korean sunscreens. And I want to make sure that we're still talking about some of our favorite Korean sunscreens. This one, like I said, is brand new from Neogen. They sent me this one to try out and I have really enjoyed it. It's also SPF 50, which you guys heard me say earlier. I always look for SPF 50. So if you want a chemical sunscreen that is mattifying and SPF 50, I highly recommend this one. The only note I want to point out is that it does have a little bit of fragrance in it. As far as the finish of this, it looks perfect on my skin tone. There is zero white cast. I had Felicia from my team use it because she's sitting right here off screen. She has darker skin than me and we all watched it happen. There is zero white cast on her face. So this is great for all skin tones also. All right, so next up, this is an expensive sunscreen. I'm going to just call that out right away. I just think it's a really interesting sunscreen, and that is the Dr. Brandt Liquid Sun Shield Daily Brightening Mineral Sunscreen. This is a mineral sunscreen. It is all zinc in it, just like the Cetaphil one. The reason why I think it's interesting is because of the texture of it. And you can also see that it comes in this dropper bottle, which is also different. But I like that it is this interesting liquid texture. It is almost sheer when you apply it, and it feels almost like you're applying an oil onto your skin. It gives you this dewy, glowy look. I absolutely have to set this one. I cannot wear it on its own. It's almost like they took that Ilia skin tint, if you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like this beautiful tinted moisturizer. Some people use it only as their sunscreen. I don't tend to use foundation sunscreens as my only sunscreen just because I don't put them all over. Like I'm not putting them back here on my neck and all that kind of stuff. But I still think that one is beautiful. It's just a whole different topic because it is tinted. This one feels kind of like that nice liquidy, oily texture that has, but it doesn't have any color to it. It does have a little bit of a white cast on darker skin tones from what I've seen so far. It ends up looking more like it has a little bit of like a purplish tint to it, but it's very faint and it gives you this really beautiful glow. For my skin tone, it's perfect. It looks really nice and pretty. Like I said, the only thing is that I definitely have to powder down when I use this because it does get a little bit too glowy like an oil. But like I said, this is really, I think in my opinion for a sunscreen, this is really expensive at $65. I just think that it's interesting to point out sunscreens like this because I think that we need new technology in sunscreen. I would like to see different types of formulations out there, not your typical cream. I would like to see more serum versions. I'd like to see more filters that are being approved here in the United States. I just think that we need to see a lot more work and progress with sunscreens. That way it actually becomes an enjoyable experience to use sunscreen in your skincare routine and actually feel like it is part of your skincare routine. If you think about like the rest of our skincare routine, for a lot of people, myself included, we see it as me time and self-care and stuff. But with sunscreen, we see this as something that we have to do, not because we love it, but because it's something that we need to do in our skincare routine. And I really think that needs to change. So I like to point this out because, you know, credit where credit's due. This is an interesting formulation for a mineral sunscreen. And then last on my list is this one from Evy Technology. This is their daily UV face mousse, long-lasting high SPF protection 30. Along the same lines of what I was talking about a second ago with the last sunscreen, I really think that sunscreens need to evolve here in the United States. And this is a great example because this is not approved here in the United States. This is a Swedish brand. It has a couple of filters that are approved here in the United States by the FDA, but it also has filters that are not approved here, not to be called sunscreen filters. We know that they're sunscreen filters because they are approved in other countries, like in Europe and the UK, and also in Asia, these filters are approved. They are better technology, they feel better on your skin, they work better on your skin. So I feel like we're just really missing the boat by not having these filters approved here in the United States. This one is very interesting to me. It is not easy to get here in the United States. I actually had to like hop on to somebody else's order because in order to get it here, she had to order like 6 different pieces or something like that. So I got 2 bottles from Evy Technology. That way we could just like split up the order. So that's one thing I want to point out for this. You can only really get this in other countries like in the UK and in Europe, but I had to try it because it is so interesting to use. You shake it up and it starts off as a mousse. As you spread it in your hands, it then turns more of into like a lotion kind of texture to it, and then you apply it to your face. When I first got it, we kept playing with it in the office and just like applying the mousse directly to our face because it just was fun to do. But it's not really the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to spray it into your hand, then start to spread it, and then apply it to your skin. What I think is so interesting about it, besides the mousse texture to it, it penetrates into that top layer of your skin, so you know that it's gonna last a little bit longer. So, you know, when I was like reading the website and stuff, you know, they talk about how like a lot of athletes that spend time outdoors and stuff like using this sunscreen. It's approved for sensitive skin, even people that have like skin ailments and stuff, even children can use this one. So it's really a nice sunscreen and it's supposed to last a lot longer than your typical sunscreen. So this is just really fascinating. I don't want to get too much into it because it's not easy to get here in the United States, but I really think this is very cool and I hope that this is like setting the tone for what US sunscreens should eventually be. So that's my updated sunscreens list. Like I said, that Bondi Sands one, if there is one sunscreen from this entire video that I encourage you to get, it is that one. I'm gonna probably keep talking about it and keep talking about it and cross my fingers that we don't get any issues with any of these other sunscreens that I've been talking about. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Susan Yara, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.